there's not really a school that people can go to, like a screen printing school. Most of it is all on-the-job training. So you learned from the guy that did it before you, who learned from Bob, who did it before him, who learned from, on and on and on. It turns into that game that you play in elementary school, and you whisper something in the ear to the person next to you, and it goes all the way around, and by the time it gets back to you, it is nothing like what it started. Every time. It's the same thing. On-the-job training is exactly that. And so sometimes you might have been doing it for 20 years, but then you see one of those basic things, and all of a sudden, something clicks. And you go, oh, maybe I should look at this a little bit differently.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Shop, where we talk shop with the industry's best. Speaking of industry's best, I'm here with Kevin Kauth from Chromaline. You may see him at different industry events. He's a common class act.
I get around.
Welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
What are you up here for?
Here for the open house tomorrow.
Oh.
Open house. I'm doing a seminar talking screen problems and helping people with their screen problems.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. All
Yeah,
right.
I appreciate you having me out.
Oh, thanks for visiting
Yeah.
and chatting with me for the next few minutes.
Yeah.
All right, Kevin. So why don't you tie your shoes? No, I'm sorry. I will.
Do you have any shoes that you don't tie?
Sorry.
Like if I could do Velcro and it was like, okay to do
Yeah.
Velcro, I think I might. It's just so easy, just like foot in and you're just gone.
Right on. Right on.
Who's got time to tie their shoes these days?
Well, you don't, because your schedule and you travel a lot, don't you?
I do travel.
You travel for work.
Yeah. So, I mean, my territory is essentially the western half of the U.S. So I get around and I work with dealers like yourself and travel with them and see customers in their shops and at different events, open houses, trade shows, all that good stuff. But yeah, I get around quite a bit, whether it's common screen problems and helping people with exposure times to installing our LTS unit. So I do work with our LTS unit, and I do all my own installs for that. So there's quite a bit that goes in with all the screen room stuff.
And it seems like you really enjoy your job. Is that right?
I do enjoy my job quite a bit. If I could do my job and travel a little bit less, it would make things better. But I do enjoy my job.
Well, because you have a family at home.
I do have a family at home, but I do enjoy helping people with their problems. And when I go into a screen room, it's not always the same thing, right? So you can go into an office and do the same job every single day, and I can't do that. That's not me at all, right? You get a taste of the outside world where you're going to see a different shop with a different problem and different people and just, different cultures and different everything. It's just different everywhere, right? And so that change of what my day looks like every single day is why I love it. It's just so different every day.
Okay. But that sounds overwhelming, right? Because you have so many different. So obviously it takes a vast amount of knowledge to get to a point where you are.
Not necessarily. I mean, I think I know some things. I'll say that, right? But honestly, I'm honed in on just a portion of that process, right? So where a shop owner really has to be concerned about, whether or not Janet came in today or not, or, in the ink room, we have to do our mixes, or over here, they have to be concerned about all of these different areas of a shop where I am just fixated on the screen room alone and the products and processes in that screen room. So yeah, I know that stuff well, but there's stuff in a screen shop that I am definitely not an expert on by all means, and I would leave that to the ink guys to deal with the ink stuff. But yes, there's a lot of knowledge that goes into just the screen room alone because there's so many different variables in there, but I'm not an expert on everything. Yeah.
All right. I was excited to work with who the industry calls the Emulsion Guru. That's quite the title. So can you please walk me through where that name came from?
I did not name myself that. I would never call myself a guru. Absolutely. So one of my customers, a dealer in Colorado, I was starting when Instagram was just starting to become a thing. I wasn't on there or anything. And he's like, oh, you should start an account and just call it Emulsion Guru because you know all this stuff. You're the guy that I come to with all my screen problems. I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So I started it, and it kind of turned into something, right? So that's kind of like I don't think of that self as myself as the Emulsion Guru. It's more of this account that I manage almost, right?
All right.
So, I mean, because I would never call myself a guru. Because there's always new things that I learn, right? I don't think I know everything. And unless you know everything, I don't think that you can be a guru. But I know quite a few things, but that's kind of how it started. It's kind of started as a joke. And then in 2020, in COVID, when I couldn't do my job the way that I'm used to doing my job, traveling out and seeing customers, that's when I really started to do more video work. And that was a way that I could get in front of customers without being able to get on a plane and go and see these customers. And that it had got like a life of its own. You know, it kind of took over at that point in time. So I still post on there and everything, and I still try to add my 2 cents and do videos and help out where I can. But now that could be a full-time job, just managing social media, right? But now that I'm actually out visiting shops and working with people the way that my job is supposed to be, now I don't get on social media as much anymore as I did in 2020, but it's still there.
Okay. Thank you. So in technical sales, which you are, right?
I am. Yep.
Okay. So in technical sales, you meet a lot of different folks, and they have a tendency to be very technical all the time. You seem to know your audience pretty well, and I think I've heard about the intricacies of emulsion from many different people over the years. And I do like when I talk with you about emulsion because you have a tendency to kind of simplify it and break it down. Do you ever get bored, kind of talking about the same things all the time, or just to different people? Like, how do you keep that enthusiasm and that curiosity? How do you keep that moving over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I like being able to help people be able to do their job better, right? So that's something that I take pride in, that if somebody's struggling in their shop and I can give them a couple little pointers and it fixes their problems, I take pride in that. And it's fun to do that kind of stuff. Now there are other questions and problems that come in that are a little bit more complicated. And you have to go through a shop and you have to look at everything in reclaim, and you have to look at how they're stretching their screens, and you have to look at everything to try to figure out, what's actually causing this problem. And it's kind of like CSI work. It's kind of like this puzzle that you don't have all the pieces to, and then you have to try to figure out, what's actually causing these things. So it's different all the time. And that's really what keeps me coming back for more, is that it isn't always the same thing. I'm not always just doing the exact same thing at every single shop that I go to.
All right, cool. All right, so take us through the moment that you decided to be in this industry, and did you start as a technical sales rep?
No.
Can you kind of give us the quick background of?
Yeah, it's not a quick background. So my origin story, have you? In high school, I took a couple graphics classes in high school. And so I learned how to do screen printing and graphic arts and things in just like one of our shop classes there. And it really, I really kind of latched onto it. I enjoyed it. I found myself doing extra projects and stuff. I was printing shirts for like my friends' bands and stuff like that in high school. And it kind of just became something that I enjoyed doing. So I looked into, going to where can I go from here in high school? What's the next step? And the next step for me was I went to the University of Wisconsin Stout for graphic communications management. And so what that 4-year degree is in printing in general. So it's a full Bachelor of Science degree in printing, but not just screen printing. Screen printing is such a small portion of what that degree is, but screen printing was always what I was more drawn to. It's just more that process I enjoyed the most. So that's just kind of where I was drawn to that. In college, you have to do an internship with a company, and I did my internship with CFire, a mesh manufacturer. I did my internship, went back to college, finished my last semester, and then they hired me on full time. So I was an application specialist for CFire for 6.5 years.
Okay.
They closed down their marketing and technical center in Minneapolis, moved everything out to New York. I didn't go with them. So I found a job in offset printing for a year, which I did not like. Again, my forte has always been screen printing. And then I got a phone call one day, do you like what you're doing right now? And I said, no, I don't. So I went up to Duluth, Minnesota, and I interviewed for this job. And I have been with Chromaline for about 16 years now.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Why didn't you head off with CFAR to New York, can you say?
I mean, for one, I just enjoyed where I was at that time.
When you started with Chromaline, what title did you start with? What sort of position did you work in?
Same position that I have now.
Oh, yeah.
So I was a technical sales rep coming into there, but I was a technical sales rep for the Midwest.
Okay.
So I had about 7 states surrounding Minnesota, which then turned into going down into Texas and working with dealers down there, which turned into working with customers in Colorado and New Mexico, which then turned into expansion.
Yeah.
So we used to have, when I first started at Chromaline, we had 5 different sales reps doing what I do, and now we have 3.
Okay.
So over the years, COVID played into that as well, but our territories have just gotten bigger over the years, but still the same job, more dealers, more territory, more customers.
Okay.
Yep.
And was Chromaline a smaller company at that point, 16 years ago? Has it grown from there?
When Chromaline started, they were a printer.
Oh, really?
Called Chroma Glow.
Okay.
And they started messing around with things. They made their own emulsion.
Oh.
And some of the local printers in the area found out that they were, and they started buying from them. And then they realized, hey, maybe we're onto something here. And so they sold off the printing portion of their business to a shop in Minneapolis, and Chromaline was born and making products from that point on.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
So yeah, it's been around for a long time. And then a few years ago, we were purchased by Saudi, so we are part of the Saudi umbrella as well. So now our offering and everything just expands, right?
Great.
So from manufacturing, our R&D teams now work together so they can collaborate on things. So it's just Chromaline has just keep getting bigger. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's great. And you go to quite a bit of trade show and industry shows.
Yep.
And
I've been to quite a few over the years.
Yeah.
Try not to go to every one of them, but sometimes, I enjoy going. I enjoy going to the trade shows because I see a lot of the printers and things like that. So it's a way of getting in front and seeing people that you might not have seen for a long time. And with a territory my size, I can't get around to all those states on a weekly basis.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's one way to be able to see everybody, and it's always fun.
yeah.
It's always fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk about the value that you feel that you bring to shops. Like, so when you're in a shop or when you're talking to a shop owner, not just great products, right? Not just, okay, we make, because I'm sure you can go on and on about the consistency and the quality and all the things, but what other values do specifically your role bring to a shop? What would you say there?
Yeah, I think honestly, like I said, I don't know everything, right? I don't claim to know everything, but I do get into hundreds of shops every year. So I can see what works and what fails, and every shop is set up differently. So I can pick and choose, I can cherry pick the things that I think that are good practice, and I can spread that news to other shops. So without them going around and seeing, what's new and going around and seeing what other shops are doing and how they're doing, things differently than what they're doing in their own shop, it's one way to come in and work with somebody and kind of give them that information without them doing the traveling. I can bring some of that into their shop.
Do you only go to really large, high volume customers?
No, I've got shops that I work with that can just be a manual printer, and I've got shops that have 70 automatics. So I mean, there's a wide range of customers that I work with, and it's fun too, because sometimes I'll work with a customer that just has a couple manuals, and then they get an automatic, and then they get 3 automatics, and then you grow with them, and it's fun seeing those shops and the progression that they have.
Yeah. Well, and in your time there, 16 years at Chromaline, or before that, it's definitely given you a solid time frame to see those shops grow.
For sure.
They don't happen overnight. It doesn't typically happen overnight, but.
And some of them don't grow, and some of them have closed their doors.
Right.
But again, it's still, it's that progression. Everybody's on a different path, but it is fun working with those shops that, start off small, and you help them out with some little things that you think are little things, but they end up being a big thing to them. Yeah. If they get just a piece of automation like an autocoder or something, and what does that do for their consistency? And now all of a sudden, they have consistent, repeatable work. They don't have to keep, reshooting screens where they were reshooting so many screens before, or having, dot loss on press and breakdowns and all that kind of stuff. So now they can grow because now they have everything. They have the pieces in place to grow.
Right.
So sometimes you can't grow until you know the things that you don't know.
Right. What would you say are some of the big impacts, the big changes that you've seen over the years? And we could probably talk all day about this, but
for sure,
what has really changed over the last, let's say, 5 years?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I mean, I think the biggest change is in screen imaging technology.
Oh.
If you would have told me 20 years ago that we would be exposing screens using lasers, I would have laughed. I'd been like, "That's so futuristic. What kind of robots do we have doing all of our jobs and stuff?" I never would have guessed that, but we're a inkjet film manufacturer, and we still sell inkjet film all over the world. But with all these new technologies coming into place, it's that progression and everything, the quality of each step of the way, from the early CTS units to going from inkjet to wax to that whole progression in the screen room, to now LTS, to now even new technology of LTS that's coming out. It's super impressive just seeing what that imaging technology has changed. I think that's the biggest change for sure.
Right on, cool. So what do you see in the future? What are you predicting the big disruptions could be in the world of apparel decoration, screen printing?
I don't have a crystal ball to really answer that question. I mean, you've seen changes with DTF. You've seen things like that. I think, in my personal opinion, I think DTF is starting to plateau if it hasn't already, because there isn't really a way to differentiate yourself from your competitors doing DTF. So for the people that are just doing DTF, I think that they're going to start to branch back out. I've already seen screen printing start to pick back up, or DTF isn't ramping up like it was before. So, but as far as disruptions go and what else is out there, I mean, new technology maybe, we'll have to see. As far as like I said, LTS and screen imaging, that kind of stuff, I think, I don't know how far that can go. Maybe there's something cool new that does come out, but I don't have that crystal ball to be able to really answer that question as best as you can, really, because who knows, right?
So you are in a lot of screen print shops and all over the country.
Yep.
What are some common problems that you see when you walk into a majority of those?
Yeah. I mean, coming from my world, the screen room, I would say most shops are underexposing their screens.
Oh.
I would say most are.
Okay.
Where
How do you know this?
I know by going in and doing an exposure test and showing them, whether it's the step wedge or an exposure calculator, showing them that they're underexposed. There's other tells that if you go in and you can rub on the screen on the squeegee side when you're washing the screen out, if it feels soft or slimy or color's coming off, it's telling me that the light hasn't made itself all the way through the screen, so it's not fully exposed. But I do think that most shops are underexposing. One, because they're afraid they're going to overexpose.
Okay.
Two, they think that they underexpose because they get better resolution and better detail to wash out. Obviously, more things are going to wash out if it's underexposed, but features that shouldn't wash away are washing away as well.
Okay.
Your durability goes way down. The thickness of your stencil goes way down. So there's a lot of problems with underexposure, but it's one of those things that is super common.
And when you bring it up, what's your typical reaction?
No, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so what do you got to do?
A lot of people get defensive. No. We have our exposure times down. We've never touched them. They're the same exposure times that we've had for years, which again is another red flag for me. As the seasons change and humidity and temperature goes up and humidity and temperature go down in the winter, that fluctuation, exposure times do fluctuate with that as well. So, I mean, there's just, it's sometimes it's hard to get people to buy into those things until you show them and you show them, look, this is why I know you're underexposed. You did this exposure test. Look where you are right now. Look where you are here. And so many times it's something that might be it might have to be adjusted in the art room. So if dots aren't washing out, it might be something that needs to be adjusted in the art room, not necessarily in the screen, because the screen, the exposure time is the exposure time. You shouldn't change that based on artwork.
Okay.
And a lot of people do change that based on artwork sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which leads back to problems everywhere else.
Okay. So the industry as a whole, what would you gauge it for health?
Yeah, I mean, I think this year's been a weird year.
Okay.
I see some shops having the best careers that they've ever had, career years, putting up huge numbers, and then other shops are closing their doors.
Okay.
I think a lot of that goes back to the particular shop, what their customer base is. Have they kind of diversified what they do in their shop? Are they just kind of a one-trick pony? Are they doing more things for customers? But I've seen signs of life again. So like I said, it's been a weird year, but I think things are trending upwards. And with some of the new things that are coming out, I think it's exciting times coming up.
You've been in so many different screen rooms all over the world. What are the attributes that make the best screen rooms that you've seen? And what are some of those things that are so important?
Yeah, I think that the number one thing for a good screen room is consistency, right? Don't go and change things all over the place. Get your science going and go in there and figure out your exposure times, figure out your coating thickness, and then do it the same way every single time. Because then you can have repeatable results. If you don't have consistency going into it, you don't have consistency going out. And so on press, you don't have consistency. You don't, if anything changes in the screen room, say you're coating your screen thicker or thinner, now your ink deposit changes on press, which means the colors of your ink change on press, which means, they're fighting out there, which then they come back to the screen room and they say, reburn the screen. So if you can keep things consistent, and that goes along the lines of, why I harp on where I think people should use automatic coaters more. There's so many people that say, well, I can hand coat screens just as good as an automatic coater, right?
Well, or I'm not doing enough that it warrants that.
Right. Even if you're only doing a few screens, it's still consistent and it's still perfect every time. I'm really good at coating screens.
Okay.
I'm really good at hand coating screens because I've been doing it for like 25 years. I've done it, it's probably closer to 30 years I've been hand coating screens. But honestly, I'm nowhere near as good as an auto coater. And that's just one of those perception things that people think you just slap the emulsion on the screen and then you just image it and you wash it out and it's the same, whatever. But if I were to measure every screen that they did, you would see a variance, which means that there's a variance in your exposure time for those screens. So if you don't have a consistent stencil, you can't have a consistent exposure time. So some are going to be overexposed, some are going to be underexposed. So you're going to lose some of those details just based on how you're hand coating those screens. There's no way around it. And you can be really good at hand coating screens, and you can do high quality work hand coating screens. However, take things to that next step. Being consistent is what it's all about.
Nice. If I'm a printer and I have problems in my screen room, and I know I do, where do you always target to start? What's the first thing you focus in on?
Yeah, I mean, screen printing is called screen printing for a reason. The screen is important, right? So I focus in on that screen. And what's the first step? I look at reclaim, right? So I want to make sure that the screens are getting cleaned properly and going back to a as clean of possible screen that doesn't have oils and chemicals left behind. That's the first step, right? That's the dirty stuff. That's the dirty step in the process that people don't want to even think about or deal with. They put somebody in there that has not shown up for work as a punishment or something like that. But it really is the most important job in the entire shop, right? So starting with cleaning the screens. Once you've got that, then dial in your coating. You want to look at your EOM, finding out to get that perfect EOM, which is, I typically say around that 10 to 20% range of your overall stencil is your EOM, which is your stencil thickness.
Okay.
And after that, let your screen dry, then hone in on your exposure times. Once you've got that down, you should have a perfect screen. If all three of those phases are done correctly, you should be able to have a perfect screen every single time, or close to at least.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So how much you talk through best practices and work on, technical side of the screen room, emulsion screens, all sorts of things from imaging to reclaiming. What are some common misconceptions that constantly get you to giggle or that you have to constantly work through? Almost like when you hear it, it's you're just like, oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that get tossed around on social media and...
Really?
Oh, yeah. You've heard. You've heard. I mean, it could be as simple as somebody going on social media and saying, what emulsion should I use?
Yes.
And then you've got 20 people that have 20 different answers, and then it becomes a popularity poll to determine which emulsion they should use.
Yeah.
When really half of those shops aren't using the same type of ink that they're using. Half those shops have a different exposure time, have a different exposure unit, have completely a different setup than what they're asking about. So what works in one shop isn't always perfect for your shop. So it's the wrong way to find out that information.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, social media in general. So as you go back to common misconceptions, I've seen things about emulsion doesn't expose when it's wet. So I'll see people that say, oh yeah, you can just coat your screens out in white light and then you can bring them in and dry them in darkness and you're perfectly fine. That's very wrong. Even when emulsion is wet, it is still being exposed. it's not turning hard necessarily, but polymers are being affected by the UV light because it's a light-sensitive product.
Okay.
Same thing as we go into the darkroom. I see things about using different white lights and all that kind of stuff. And for some of the LED systems that are out there, I mean, there's some truth to that. So you can get LED lights in your shop that are a specific wavelength that are outside of what emulsion is looking for.
Okay.
So the spectral appetite of the emulsion matches.
Spectral appetite. That's a good one.
That's a good one. I like using that one. Spectral appetite matching spectral output.
Ooh, not as cool, but
Yeah, but they go together, right? So if the lights of your LEDs are shifted outside that range, it doesn't affect it as much.
okay.
But it is still exposing those screens. And working under yellow UV safe light, it takes it one step further and it makes it even safer. So now you can work longer under those conditions. And again, even under yellow UV safe light, if you've got a screen sitting out for a few days, if you tape a quarter to that screen and then go to wash it out in a few days, you'll be able to see where that circle was.
Okay, even with the yellow safes.
Even with yellow safe, right? So if you're storing screens in a room that is in your yellow safe light, a lot of times I'll put something on top of that screen rack, whether it's a piece of cardboard or something that the light isn't getting right down onto those screens. One step further, we talked earlier about, you were asking about red light in some dark rooms, right? And I said, as far as like, that's more about old photography. And that's one step further. So one step further is red light is safer than yellow light. Now you can work under that much longer, but it's so dark, right? It's a dark room at that point in time, like photography needs, but you don't need that in screen printing.
Okay, all right.
So the yellow light is already the happy medium,
Okay, good.
right? So the happy medium shouldn't be white LED. The happy medium is yellow safe lights.
Okay, nice, nice.
That's a big one.
That is a good
because
one.
that's one that I have seen trending around that you don't have to do this, you don't have to do that. It's not necessarily true.
Okay.
And you might be able to get away with it. You might be able to make 80% of your screens might be absolutely perfect. But I'm always going to talk about consistency and perfect practice.
yeah.
So if it's consistent in there, it's consistent out on the press floor.
Good. Yes, that makes a lot of sense. Speaking about the industry and how the different experience levels and different journeys that everybody's are on, maybe they're part of the process they're not involved with, so it's not a big deal. You know, what I mean is, like, when you're talking about the safe lights, if their process is they coat a screen, it dries in 15 minutes, and then they take them out every single time, maybe the light sensitivity isn't quite as impactful there. Where I'm going with that is, how do you speak in general terms to a wide range of people, like at a seminar, right?
Yep.
How do you speak to best practices in a seminar with a lot of folks around?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm doing a seminar, there's a lot of different backgrounds, right? There's people, like you said, different phases of their journey. So my seminar will have super basic things that people that have been screen printing for a long time will just have to endure through those slides.
Yeah, they'll nod through
and they'll
it.
just go, yeah. But sometimes a good refresher is good too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because again, there's not really a school that people can go to, like a screen printing school. Most of it is all on-the-job training. So you learned from the guy that did it before you, who learned from Bob, who did it before him, who learned from, on and on and on. It turns into that game that you play in elementary school, and you whisper something in the ear to the person next to you, and it goes all the way around, and by the time it gets back to you, it is nothing like what it started. every time, ever. It's the same thing. On-the-job training is exactly that. You're just learning from what the person did before you. And so sometimes you might have been doing it for 20 years, but then you see one of those basic things and all of a sudden something clicks. And you go, oh, maybe I should look at this a little bit differently.
Nice.
So yes, there's basic things. There's more advanced things that are going to go right over some people's heads. But I try to, I'll try to make it as simplistic as I can. You know, you can make screen printing in art form, or you can make screen printing a science.
Yeah.
And if you can make screen printing a science, you're going to have more success down the road, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. I like that.
You can't be an expert on everything,
Right.
right? So if you've got a graphic designer who's an expert at graphic design, they should be able to take that work and give you perfect files in the screen room. And then if you've got somebody in the screen room who's really knows their craft back there and the art, you know, not art, more the science back there, and understands how a screen is built, understands the nuances, understands all of the variables that go into it. Now when those two departments are working together, now you have this cohesive team.
Yeah. All right. We work with a lot of people who are just getting up and running.
Yeah.
What would you say are the vital must-haves when they're considering building their first screen room or dark room?
Insanity.
No, what can you not what can you not do without?
Why would people get into screen printing?
Right. What's the most you know, the must-haves of a screen room?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a screen room relatively cheap, right? That's one of the nice things about screen printing is, yes, you can get into it next to nothing, right? You can expose a screen using the sun. You can do it, right? But there's also, you know, things that go with that, right? There's problems, and people can DIY an exposure unit, and you can DIY all this kind of stuff in your screen room, and you can make a screen, and you can make it work, and you can print shirts and be happy. But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So I think the number one thing, in my opinion, is a good exposure unit. Because there's so many exposure units where people DIY them, or they'll go get a bulb from Home Depot, and they have no idea what that bulb is. They go get a halogen bulb, which a halogen bulb doesn't put out very much UV at all, right? So now they're exposing their screens, they're underexposed, they're soft, they're having problems, their detail just isn't there, and then they go to Facebook, why does my screen look like this?
Yeah.
And it's most of the time, it's because it's this weak light source that just isn't exposing the emulsion correctly. It's outside the range of what the emulsion wants, or it's just weak, or whatever the case is. Or if there's no vacuum unit on there, they're setting books and weights on top of it and trying to get good contact between there, which again, like I said, you can do all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you can make a screen super cheap. And that's one of the fun things about screen printing. That's
True.
one of the draws that draws people into it and starts up that process. But when it's time, the best thing that I think is a good exposure unit.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That's really important. What about the size of a darkroom? Does that matter at all?
I mean, that depends on the company, right?
Yeah.
Are you doing 2,000 screens a day? Are you doing 20 screens a day? It's all the equipment that goes into that. So, I mean, that's a tough one too. It goes kind of all over the place.
Okay.
So,
All
I
right.
mean, size of the darkroom, I would always say this: make your darkroom a little bit bigger than you think it should be,
Okay.
because then you can evolve with it. If you want to add something, now you don't have to knock out your wall and build onto this darkroom, or you don't have to expose your screen here and put it in a black plastic bag and then run across your shop and rinse it out on the other side of the shop.
Yes.
Try to make it a little bit bigger than what you need today.
Okay.
And I can assure you, you'll fill that space much faster than you think you'll fill that space.
All right. I kind of want to do like a quick get his preferences on some things. Shoelaces. Tied or untied?
Tied.
Saxophone or recorder?
Oh, saxophone for sure.
I hear you play.
I did at one time. I might still be able to. I might still be able to do it, but it's been a minute.
Table tennis or regular tennis?
Tennis.
Regular.
Tennis.
DTF or DTG?
Oof. I mean, if I had to choose between the lesser of two evils, I would say DTF. Just because of ease of use.
Is that just your bias for being a screen print traditionalist in your line of work, or is there something?
I think most of it is I respect quality. So when I put up a perfect screen printed print versus the best DTF print versus the best DTG print, I mean, that's kind of how I would rank it. You know, it's going to be screen top, DTF, DTG, I think.
Water base or plastisol?
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a place for both. I like the hand of water base.
You do.
But plastisol is just so easy. I think anybody that's starting into screen printing, you take those baby steps, and plastisol is just so much easier to figure out.
Simple one-color shirts or multicolor simulated process?
Depends on the artist.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
For sure.
I mean, I think it depends on the artwork by all means, but yeah, I like sim process.
Did you have a specific mentor that you mind shouting out, or do you not want to talk about that?
No, yeah. I learned quite a bit from my first job. So when I took that job as an intern at CFAR, Dan Gilsdorf at CFAR was the one that I learned quite a bit of the technical stuff.
Is he still around?
Yep. He pretty much runs all of CFAR's. I don't know what his position is now. He's bounced around in positions, but yeah, he's still at CFAR and pretty much runs their sales and marketing, I think, worldwide. But yeah, so I did learn a lot from him along the way, and I learned a lot of stuff from, like I said, mostly getting out into shops, right? That's where I learned most of the things were going into shops, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and kind of cherry picking what I actually kept in my brain at that point.
So we have some folks at Ryonet that are, 20, 30 years of working in shops and working at Ryonet as a salesperson or whatever, and it seems like they bump up against certain things that they don't know about, and they want to learn about it, and so we're in like this constant state of that. Is there anything that's on your radar that you want to learn more about?
I would like to be better from the graphic side of things. So like if I was more proficient with Photoshop and Illustrator and all of that, I think would help me significantly in some aspects.
I hear that often, I guess. Is that a typical thing?
Yeah, I think it is a typical thing, because even for graphic designers that go to school for graphic design work, most of the graphic design work that they learned how to do is mostly for like web-based things, right?
Oh.
So you make an image, but just because you make an image doesn't mean that it's press ready.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So to make that image and then make it so it's printable, and printable in, whichever, whether it's screen printing or DTF, or it doesn't make a difference, offset, gravure, flexo, taking that artwork and being able to make it so it's press ready is a skill quite a few people don't know.
I do graphics all the time. I just ask ChatGPT and it makes things.
Yeah, I mean, I do graphics too. I mean,
I like to call. I mean, do I call myself a graphic designer guru? No, I don't want to be a guru, but
nobody wants to be a guru.
This has been fun. Thanks for talking with me.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for traveling over here. And we're gonna have a blast tomorrow at the open house. We're gonna have a lot of people, a lot of good networking, education, all that fun stuff. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for being such a good partner with us and helping us out.
Like I said before, I appreciate you having me come out and working with you guys. I'm looking forward to tomorrow and doing some classes,
All
training
right.
some people, helping them out with some problems, and
All right.
doing our thing.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Brad.
We're done.